You're listening to the Crosscheck NHL Show, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Here are your hosts, Andrew Berkshire and Mary Clark.
Hi, and welcome to the Crosscheck NHL Show. I am Andrew Berkshire from the Game Over Montreal show on SDPN, and I'm here with Mary Clark, my wonderful co-host from For the Win. We're happy to be here with you today. I hate to start the show off with a bummer, but I feel like we can't not mention it because it's weird to talk about hockey right now, but the whole situation in Ukraine is absolutely nuts. Hopefully we can give you a little bit of a distraction from that for the next little while. So thanks for tuning in if you are tuning in, because I know that, I spent all of last night basically doom scrolling and barely slept. I'm sure many people did as well. And that's for people who aren't, imminently under threat. So weird situation, but this is what we've got today. Maybe we're starting another world war. Who knows? Vladimir Putin trying to instigate and create the same situation that dear old Adolf made in 1939. Anyway, we got an interesting show for you today. We're going to talk about the Toronto Maple Leafs and how they had an embarrassing start to the week and had some unfortunate incidents happen at the same time. And then Mary has to speak about Claude Giroux because we are nearing the time, we're less than a month away now, where Claude Giroux may not be a Philadelphia Flyer anymore. And frankly, that's an emotional experience. And finally, we're going to talk about, hey, did you know there's another outdoor game this weekend? I didn't know until Mary wrote it in the doc for this show.
I
forgot about it.
I didn't know either until I was like, oh man, there's not a lot of news to talk about today. What is there to talk about? And I was like, oh right, there's an outdoor game. So we could talk about that. That's what I think.
It's fun. I think the outdoor games, there's a lot of people who, we'll get into it then. I'll save my thoughts. I'll save my thoughts.
Save your thoughts. Save the content.
Yes, save the content for when it's appropriate. Don't just go on a ramble at the start of the show. All right, so let's get into the Leafs right away because it is really funny. And I know that I have a chat going with the Steve Dangle podcast guys, and I always try to rib them a little bit because they're fun and they can take it. And when the Leafs were losing to Columbus, I pointed out that they were going to lose on back-to-back nights to the last two teams that eliminated them from the playoffs and look pretty bad in doing so. And it wasn't very appreciated. Steve laughed, but the other two were like, why are you pointing that out? Please take it back. We didn't want to know that. And on top of it, they also lost Jake Muzzin. So pretty disastrous start to the week for the Toronto Maple Leafs.
Yeah, I think the reason why I wanted to talk about this is because of Steve Dangle's incredible clip that I saw going around from his LFR videos. I don't watch them because I'm not a Leaf fan. I listen to his podcast and stuff, but I do not watch the LFRs. But oh boy, that is definitely a clip you need to watch because I hate to say it, I laughed. It was like, I don't know, something about seeing first hearing him hit that register in his screams, incredible. Something I could never dream of doing.
Range.
Yeah, he does.
He's the Mariah Carey of video logging.
Yes, exactly. So it was incredible to watch, and I'm just convinced that the Maple Leafs are an experiment in seeing how far you can break sports fan base before they go bonkers, because I feel so bad for them, but also it's incredible content. So I do what I don't. It's weird. But yeah, the Maple Leafs are such an interesting team, and even though we're always always making it about the Leafs, but it kind of, a lot of things do revolve around the Leafs in terms of they are, I guess, I want to say the face of the NHL, but they are the driving force behind a lot of the fandom in the NHL, I believe. There's a reason why people talk about the Leafs a lot, and it is because, Toronto is a huge market, the biggest hockey market, at least in the NHL, and it's just, it's news when something happens to them, also because they've had such a miserable fate over the last however many years it has been. So to see them struggle in the middle of the season is at least a little bit of an interesting note, also because in the way it happened. You're right that their last two losses came at the hands of the two teams that last defeated them in the playoffs. So that is, interesting and very Maple Leafs like. So yeah, it is just, it's the Maple Leafs are like, I think, the NHL's best soap opera, because even though they've been doing well for themselves this season overall, um, it in parts it's almost not good enough.
It's
Because you can
never good enough.
yeah, this is true, and it won't be good enough until they at least win a playoff round. But like, it's clear this team has flaws. Like, I mean, they're a good hockey team, but it is very clear that they are also inherently flawed. And I don't know if that's just from roster construction or if it's their own mentality in parts, that they're just haunted by the ghosts of their past and it affects them more than any other team. It's just a fascinating team, at least to watch for me. I know a lot of people hate hearing about the Maple Leafs, but for me, they're just fascinating because of all of those factors. Their combined playoff losses, not getting out of the first round in years, the misery they inflict on their fans, the David Ayers game that, just passed the 2-year anniversary.
That's the best part of like their last couple games. The second loss was on the David Ayers anniversary. So it was like the 1-2-3 punch right in the gut. It's a rough couple days for Maple Leafs fans. I feel like what you've hit on is super interesting because, we talk a lot about like sports psychologists being hired by teams in recent years. I feel like there could be some sort of paper written, not just about the Maple Leafs themselves, but like of Maple Leafs fandom, because it is like not necessarily a group think per se, but it seems like every single year, no matter how good they are, and they have been legitimately good for a long stretch now, there are things that happen during the year that like there's this build up and crescendo of confidence, and you can see it on social media, and it gets really annoying. And then literally the most embarrassing thing that could possibly happens, and it goes right back down to zero, and everyone's like, this team sucks, they're not going to go anywhere. And like, as always, the reality is somewhere in the middle ground there, but it is incredible to watch how this happens every year, where the Leafs look incredible and they go on these huge runs where it's like at one point this season they'd gone on like a 24-2-3 run, which is absurd. It's amazing. And then they go on this situation like this, and it's only a couple of games, but it happens to be a couple games that are like the most emotionally crippling way that you could do it, that just jogs all of the memories of past failures and Leafs fans' collective memory, and everything's down to zero again. I find it absolutely fascinating.
And there's nothing I can think of to equate it to in other sports either. Like, when teams are good, usually they're like, I mean, maybe the only thing I can think of is the Dallas Cowboys and,
Oh, I was
how they're
thinking,
supposed to be really good and, have a good quarterback. They had Tony Romo, they have Dak Prescott, and they're still never able to really put it together for, one reason or another. Um, like either culminating in miserable playoff bounces, and since they're qualified as America's team in the NFL, I think that's maybe the only comparable I can think of. But even then, I don't know if Dallas Cowboy fans' misery is as miserable as the Maple Leafs. I don't know. I I only follow football because I'm an Eagles fan and also because I cover it in general. But like, I don't know the plights of Dallas Cowboys fans as much as I can see the plights of Maple Leafs fans.
the only sports analogy that I can think of that makes sense is English football, like not American football, but soccer, English soccer,
Yes.
because they're a team that like they see themselves as the inventors of the game, right? Like it is their sport, and every single major tournament they enter expecting to win. And outside of the last Euro where they lost in the final and probably were the better team overall, like they just almost always flame out spectacularly and way earlier than you expect. Their best players making horrible mistakes. And I feel like that's the only thing that I can think of where a team is legitimately good and still manages to find ways to lose like the Leafs have. But I feel like hockey is special in that it is such a randomness driven sport in a way, right? So like I know that there was a study done years past on like how much talent necessarily correlates to winning. And in the NHL, it was like the lowest of any of the professional leagues in sport, which is crazy. Like just like from the shape of the puck, that it adds a little bit of randomness. The boards add randomness. Officiating adds randomness. Like there's so much in this game that is uncontrollable. So you would think, being good, you would just luckily get things to go your way one time. But so far has not occurred for the Maple Leafs.
Yeah, it like I yeah, it's really interesting to just watch as a bystander. I could never imagine being a Toronto fan. I know that like they were satiated a little bit because their basketball team won with the Raptors. But hockey is a different beast there. Hockey is, that city, that town. It's everything to like their fans. And like part of me is like, please just give them the win, please. I don't know if the world could take more Toronto misery given everything else that's happening in the world. But then also part of me is like, this is so fascinating. I almost want to see how far it goes because if the Maple Leafs, flame out in the first round again, is it will it actually blow it up this year? Like what? Like there's it's I think interesting either way, but there really is nothing like Toronto, and I feel bad, but also I'm like it's also great content. It really is. It is, and there's whatever that tweet is. Like the point of sports is to be sad in a group. I think that's Maple Leafs fans to a T. Not only just be sad in a group, but experience like I don't want to say gaslighting because I feel like that makes light of that term.
Well, yeah, and it sounds intentional, right? And I don't
Yeah.
think the Leafs intentionally do this to their fans. And you're right. I feel like a lot of mental health terminology has been kind of co-opted online in a way that
and I'm not
makes
trying
it
to
not
say
serious.
that way. I just am trying to find a better word for what the Maple Leafs put their fans through.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
So it is definitely not gaslighting, but it is not
something analogous to that in a very much less serious way.
Yeah, this is sports. I'm not trying to make light of mental health here. It is just sports, but it is definitely fascinating to see what the Maple Leafs go through. And like this is just a regular season, like a couple stretches of the regular season. Like their playoff predictions, like I don't remember specifically where they are in the standings, but aren't they like on a crash course with like the Tampa Bay Lightning basically in
Lightning
the first
or
round?
Panthers, those are their choices.
Yeah. And it's not going to be easy, and they probably have they definitely have the hardest matchup in the first round, just based on where things are predicted to go. So in part I feel bad because it's like the universe is stacking everything against them, including their own team. So it is being good in the regular season only counts for so much because the playoffs matter the most. And if you have such a good regular season and then get stuck and eliminated by another really great team in the playoffs, what was it all for? Almost like it's just when they eventually exercise their demons, because they will. This isn't going to go on forever. There's no possible way this goes on forever. When they exercise their demons, it will be great and it will be really awesome to see. But it has just been a fascinating spiral into, I don't know. I don't even know like the right words for what Maple Leafs fans suffer, but misery, sadness,
all of the above.
Yeah.
I mean, we say that it can't last forever, but we all should remember the San Jose Sharks. I remember when the Leafs first got Matthews, and I don't think Steve remembers this because he'd probably yell at me for it. But when the Leafs first got Matthews, we were talking and it was like on Twitter, not on DMs, just like in public. He was like, like I feel this is it, like they're going to build something special. They're going to be actually good. And like this Marner, Nylander, like this is the core that could be like incredible. And I was like, yeah, you also just might be the San Jose Sharks. You might be great for 10 straight years and never win anything. And he was like, how dare you? Because nobody wants that evil put on them. But I mean, the San Jose Sharks were arguably over a 10 or 12 year period, the best team in the NHL.
Yeah,
and they
they were
never won.
constant. Yeah, they were constant in the playoffs and always making it to like the conference finals and stuff like that. Yeah, I mean they had an incredible track record and just never got through. I'll
Yeah, and
always blame
even
they.
like the Boston Bruins as well. They won one, but the Boston Bruins for about a decade have been, like, if you just combine all the seasons, have been the best team in the league throughout that time.
God, was there a series against Chicago that long ago? Was it
Yeah, that
really that
was
long ago?
2014.
Oh God. Oh God. It feels just like yesterday almost to
Yeah.
me. That's scary.
Their Stanley Cup was 11 years ago.
And it's so wild because it feels more recent than that. Maybe that's just because Boston sports in general have won
They
so
win everything.
much. Yeah. So,
I mean,
yeah.
Patrice Bergeron was 25. He's
Wow.
36 now.
Oh my God. Andrew,
Like,
we're old now.
I'm acutely aware. I'm 35 now.
Yeah, I mean, I know we have a little bit of a difference in age, but still, like that's terrifying to me. Because when you said that they had won a Stanley Cup within like there was only one within the last 10 years, I'm like, wait, was it really that long ago? And yeah, it was. I mean, they made that finals appearance against St. Louis, but they obviously didn't win. So
Yeah. That, and like, they think of missed opportunities, right? They lost in the finals twice. The Bruins are actually the team that's lost in the finals more than any team in the league.
huh, interesting.
Yeah, I believe they actually have the worst Stanley Cup Finals record in the NHL, which is fantastic. As somebody who hates the Bruins, it's fantastic.
Yeah, you have a little bit more history there with them. But yeah, Toronto going and just finishing it and tying a bow on Toronto. They're still going to be good. They're going to be active at the trade deadline. It is just going to be interesting to watch what happens to them because they are like one of the most, like, I keep saying fascinating, but it's true because like I'm like watching them with like a little telescope from afar, being like, "Oh, this is neat." Just watching to see how things play out. Because it is a really interesting story, and they're gonna make the playoffs, but will they be able to put things together and actually exercise their demons this time, or will we be talking, blowing up the team in a couple months' time? Who's to say?
Yeah, they're always the main character. That's the thing,
Yes,
right?
they are the
And
main character.
they're 100% the main character, and we love it. Good or ill, they're always fun. All right, so in a moment, we're going to talk about some feelings. Maybe we'll do some therapizing over Claude Giroux and his imminent, amicable divorce from the Philadelphia Flyers. But first, I have to tell you about Built Bar. This is the time of year that I've pretty much given up on all of my New Year's resolutions, but not this year. I'm sticking to my resolution to eat right, thanks to Built Bar. It almost feels like it's not really a resolution at all because I actually enjoy eating them. Have you tried the Puffs? If you haven't, you're missing out on one of the best Built Bars that they have. Puffs are the first ever protein-infused marshmallow. They're fluffy, they're marshmallowy, they're not just a protein bar, they're a treat. And they're covered in 100% real chocolate. Puffs are a fan favorite with some incredible flavors. Yummy cinnamony churro, coconut marshmallow, banana cream pie. So good. These are going to be your new favorite. All Built Bars are covered in 100% real chocolate. Yes, Puffs included. 100% real chocolate. Low calorie, high protein. Replace your candy bars with these. They're better. Typical candy bars can be anywhere from 200 to 300 calories. Go to Built.com and scroll down to the macros chart and you'll be blown away. High protein, low calorie, high fiber, low carb. Most Built Bars contain 130 calories, 4 grams of sugar, and 4 net carbs, and 17 grams of protein. Compare that to a candy bar? It's not even a comparison. Mint brownie, coconut almond, and new for this month, white chocolate cookies and cream. They're all delicious, and new flavors are coming out all the time. If you think a flavor might be good, they'll make it. It will be delicious, it'll be good for you. At Built Bar, they're all about the taste. They make it delicious first, then figure out how to make it healthy. I don't know how they do it, but they always pull it off. Go to Built.com, use promo code LOCKED15 to get 15% off of your order. Use promo code LOCKED15 to get 15% off at Built.com. All right, Mary, so I'm going to just kind of leave this to you because I think this is a topic so near and dear to your heart, and for good reason, because Claude Giroux has been one of the greatest players in franchise history for the Flyers, a basically is as close as it gets to a born and raised Flyer. It seems like the Avalanche are the most likely destination, which I don't even know how that cap situation is going to work, but go off, Avalanche, figure it out, because that's hilariously fun. Why not do it? But man, Claude Giroux, even me, who's not a Flyers fan, Claude Giroux leaving the Flyers is weird.
Yeah, it is weird. I think I'm starting to come to terms with it now. Just because I feel bad. The Flyers have let him down, I think, over the years. He's given everything he's had to this team. He's been an incredible player, but he's always taken the world on his shoulders with this team. And the team never really built anything around him. I mean, some of his best players that have been around him were, Jake Voracek. I mean, he was with Chris Pronger for a little bit, then Pronger got injured, I believe. I know about the injury, but they played together early on in their careers, and you know, Drew's always had to take the mantle of the Flyers on his own. And there's a reason he was named captain, and all of that stuff. But I feel as if the team let him down by just not giving him more players, more resources to work
more
with.
Support, essentially.
Yeah, more support, basically, because he's had to do it all on his own, and you can tell. He cares so much, and this is from somebody who has interacted with him in the locker room a handful of times over the years. He's someone that cares deeply about this team, being a Flyer, what it means to him as a person. I mean, he's built a family here in the area. They've put down roots here. Being a Flyer means a lot to him, and he tries to carry the weight of this team on his shoulders. And he's an incredible player, but he is not in the same echelon as the Sidney Crosbys, the Connor McDavids, the Austin Matthewses. They're in two different tiers, and that's okay. And I grew up watching Claude Giroux play hockey. I mean, he started his Flyers career in 2017, 18 for like a couple games, but not 2017, 18, 2007, 2008. That'd be, way, way earlier than that. But 2008, 2009 was when he really, made his mark on the team. And I was in high school then. So I've known World where Claude Giroux has been on the Flyers for a lot of my life. And I knew he was going to be a star in this league, when he really first got going. So it's just disappointing to me that the Flyers could never live up to the talent that Claude Giroux has. Because he is. I know people always will go back at him with, Peter Laviolette's "he's the best player in the world" quote. And I think that's unfair to Giroux because
it's not Giroux's fault.
No, that wasn't Giroux's fault. And in that series, I believe that was during the Penguins series, that Bananas playoff series. I believe I could be getting my timelines mixed up, but in
the
that
Brizgalov
series,
Fleury series.
yeah, and in that series, he was the best player. That hit that he made against Sidney Crosby in the opening faceoff of one of the later games of that series, then scoring a goal right after, sticks with me forever. Like, Claude Giroux has so many of those awesome moments, and has done so much for the team. And sure, people will also point to his playoff numbers not being so good in his more recent seasons. And sure, I get it. But he'll be an incredible pickup for whatever team grabs him at the trade deadline, because I believe he's going to get traded. To me, it makes too much sense. I mean, he's 34. He's in the last year of his deal, I believe, with the Flyers. So it makes all the sense in the world for him to get traded, because there is a possibility that, sure, he goes to the Avalanche. Say, best possible scenario, he goes to the Avalanche, they win a Stanley Cup. He could always sign with the Flyers again.
Yeah.
Or he might not. Or if, he goes to the Avalanche and they lose, he could test the free agency market. He could re-sign with Colorado. There's so many options here, but to me, it makes the most sense for him to leave based on where he's at in his career and based on where the Flyers are in their trajectory. There's so much to be said about what the Flyers have done in more recent times, how Hextall's drafting hasn't really panned out, and a lot of Flyers fans are still grappling with that, with the fact that, all these players that were, highly touted as prospects in Hextall's era have not really panned out at all whatsoever. And that was supposed to be, the core of this Flyers team is those young players, Travis Konechny, Oscar Lindblom, Joel Farabee. We've seen a little bit of Cam York, Morgan Frost. And a lot of these players have underperformed. And it could be the, mix around the team. It could be bad luck with injuries. Like Ryan Ellis is injured for the rest of the season. He's only played like 2, 3, 4 games. He's only played a handful of games for the Flyers this season. So there's a lot of, bad luck surrounding, that stuff. But this team might just not be very good. The players that were selected might just not be very good. And I think it's going to take a lot of work for the Flyers to get to a contending spot. And, Claude Giroux got to a Stanley Cup final with the Flyers in 2010, and they lost. But he hasn't been back there since. And 2010 was a much different world then than it is today. So I wouldn't begrudge Giroux for leaving and getting traded this season because he deserves a chance to win a Stanley Cup. He hasn't gotten anywhere close in the years since. And for a player that still has the talent that he has, in 48 games this year, he's got 38 points, 16 goals. I know that's not, the best numbers, but he's still incredibly talented. And on a system, in a system like Colorado's, he wouldn't have to have the world on his shoulders. They have such incredible talent there. He'll be a good complementary piece and add to the fact in Colorado instead of having to do it all on his own. I'm just sad we got to this point. I hoped that Giroux would be a forever Flyer. He is that type of player. He embodies everything about, the Flyers, who they are and what they want to be. And it's just a shame that the team could never provide for him what he's provided for us. So yeah, it's bittersweet. I know I'm talking like this is already that, he's already traded and whatnot, but I wanted to work out my feelings on this for some time, and I know I probably echo a lot of what other Flyers fans think. I know there's a lot of at least a vocal contingent of Flyers fans that hate Giroux, think he's a terrible captain. No, he's done the best that he's could with what this team has provided for him, and I think this year has shown that he has done his best to still be a productive player, a good leader, even in a locker room that's had a lot of turmoil and is, however many games away from hitting their third 10-game losing streak in the year, which is unfathomable to me. So yeah, I hope he goes to Colorado. He is only like a handful of games away from his 1000th game as a Flyer, and that'll happen right before the trade deadline. So my prediction is he'll the Flyers in Colorado may come to some sort of, be like, hey, we want to, make this deal. And then Giroux plays up till his 1000th game and then gets traded because it's right before the deadline. Maybe that's what happens. That's at least like in my perfect world scenario. Claude Giroux can celebrate his 1000th game as a Philadelphia Flyer, then get traded before the deadline and, do all really awesome things for Colorado. But it's bittersweet. He's a great player. He's one of my favorites. I grew up watching him. I have a lot of really fond memories of his time with the Flyers, and I just feel like the team let him down. And I hope that Flyers fans, realize that the everything that's gone wrong with this team isn't Giroux's fault. That he's done everything he's could for this team and given his all. And I hope that there's a team out there that, lifts him up in the way that the Flyers never did and, gets him a Stanley Cup. And, if he does get traded to Colorado or another team this year, I will be rooting for him to win a Stanley Cup, just like, Kimmo Timonen when he won, I believe, with Chicago. That almost feels like, yeah, okay. When he won with Chicago, Braden Shen, who wasn't a long-time Flyer, but he won a cup with St. Louis, the Kings with Carter and Richards. It seems as if a lot of former Flyers have a lot of success outside of the Flyers, and I don't know what that means for the Flyers themselves, but this is something I'm used to as a Flyers fan, and I'll be rooting for them wholeheartedly, and I hope he does it. It's just, I hope his legacy with the team is that he was an incredible player, not in that, upper tier of hockey players, but a really, really good hockey player that deserved better than he got here. So
Yeah.
I don't know if you have any other thoughts on his legacy, Andrew, but that's where I'm at.
Just kind of quickly, because I think I realized why I empathize so much with the Claude Giroux situation is that his career almost exactly mirrors that of Saku Koivu with the Montreal Canadiens, who left the Montreal Canadiens at 34. At 33. Giroux is 34. They were the captain almost the whole time, for both of their teams. Both of them tragically under-supported by their teams, but achieved outside of expectations several times in the playoffs. Made the playoffs in years where they probably shouldn't have. Carried teams on their backs. And in the end are kind of seen as just really good players instead of super elite players. I think Giroux has more offensive production than Koivu did, but he also played in a little bit of a higher scoring era and didn't deal with the ridiculous knee injury that Koivu took in his second full season in the league. So it just brings back memories to me. And I know Koivu went to Anaheim and didn't end up winning. He had a decent playoff run in the last year of his career, but overall couldn't get there. I hope better for Giroux. So I hope he wins a cup too. I think he's a great player and an easy guy to root for. I'm with you, Mary. I hope that wherever he goes, that they have a lot of success this season. And the fact is, when Koivu left, a lot of people wrote him off as essentially done. And he had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 more years with the Ducks where he was their, I think, second line center, essentially for the most part, and had very productive seasons that entire time. So Giroux has a lot of hockey left.
Oh, yeah.
I don't see a crazy decline with him yet. So he has some chances here to go for it, and I hope he does. Hopefully he gets it in a way that's a little bit more glorious than Kimmo Timonen, because when he got traded to the Blackhawks, he went 16 games in the regular season, 0 points. 18 games in the playoffs, 0 points.
Yeah.
And Kimmo Timonen was a great player, but that's a pretty harsh way to end your career.
True,
But
he lifted the Stanley Cup at the end of the day.
True.
And I remember watching that and instantly feeling emotional for him, because you could tell that it meant a lot to him. I mean, it means a lot to everybody who lifts the Stanley Cup, but for a player
it means
like
more
that,
to the graybeards, right? The people who played their whole career and never got there and then finally get there. It's like the Raymond Bourque thing when he won in 2001.
Yes.
And I can still hear the call in the back of my head. It's iconic, and everybody loves when the captain gets it and just immediately passes it to the oldest guy who hasn't won. It's the best part of it. So, yeah. Well, up next, we're going to talk about the outdoor game that's coming up in Nashville. Or is it in Nashville or is it in Tampa?
No, it's in Nashville.
It's in Nashville. Okay,
right. Yep, it's at the Tennessee
because I saw the
Titans.
mock-up. Yeah, I saw the mock-up of the arena. It looks amazing, actually. And Smashville can put on a good crowd, so that's going to be really fun. But first, I got to talk to you about BetOnline. Football might be over for this season, but basketball is in full steam for both the pro and college hoops. For the latest odds, totals, player performance props to where the next fired coach is going to land, BetOnline.net is the #1 spot for all of your sports betting needs. BetOnline remains the best spot for all of your sports scores, podcasts, and news this season. And it's not just basketball. BetOnline.net is your source for hockey, boxing, and UFC. Head to the website today and use your mobile device to learn about all the trends and check in on the action. BetOnline, where the game starts. All right, Mary, so there's this outdoor game, and it's funny the way that it worked out, because heading into this season, everyone expected Nashville to be terrible. And they're not on par with the Lightning, but they are competitive. And, I know that it's tough to talk. I mean, I kind of hinted at what I was going to talk about earlier on in the show. These outdoor games, I think there's a big temptation to knock them because they don't get the hype that the Winter Classic used to get. But I feel like they still mean a lot to the markets that they're in, and they are still kind of fun. I think the NHL does need to continually reinvent itself in how they do them, because you have to kind of embrace the local thing. Like, I don't know what the plans are for this Nashville one, but if it were me, I would have like every country music star in the city would be playing a concert in and around this area and make a whole weekend out of it, right? I don't know if they're planning to do that. I assume they are, because Nashville has some sense of ceremony, but just between these two teams, Lightning and Predators, like, it should be a good game.
Yeah. I almost wish in part that the NHL would dial down a bit on the outdoor games, because it does feel a bit overdone at this point. But at the same time, it is for the markets that the games are in, first and foremost. It's almost like the All-Star game in a sense. Like, the product can be so-so or bad depending on, because like I'm trying to think of an outdoor game that was really, awesome outside of, the visuals were cool and stuff like that. Usually these games are just, since they're regular season games, they're usually just run of the mill games to potentially so games because of, the conditions out there on the ice. But it's the visuals, that really make it, and the uniqueness of it. But a lot of that is also due to the fact that if you're, there, it has a different atmosphere. I've never been to one, but I have talked to people who have. I say it is really fun to be there, even though it's, depending on where you sit, more difficult to see what's happening on the ice. But you are there. If you're going there, you're going there for the atmosphere and to either drink, have a good time, just enjoy, like soak up the place you are in. So I'm looking forward to it from a perspective, because it is Nashville, and we've seen what Nashville can do with, when they were in the Stanley Cup final. They had an incredible atmosphere there. They did the All-Star game some years back. I don't remember which All-Star game it was, but we know Nashville can put on a show. They're very much like Vegas in that regard. They have a certain flavor to their town and their city and the people that are there and the fans and the culture that they've cultivated there. So
can I say something controversial?
Sure.
I think Nashville puts on a better show than Vegas. I find Vegas to be a little bit try hard.
I think that's the Vegas's thing, though. Like,
I know it's Vegas's thing, and they should do it, but I don't know. Like, I'm the kind of person where I go to Vegas, and after 2 days, I'm like, I hate it here.
Here's the thing: I've never been to Vegas, so I wouldn't be able to tell you. But from everything I've gathered about Vegas, that's kind of their shtick. I mean, the whole thing about, celebrities going there to, cap off their careers, like singers going there to cap off their careers in Vegas and stuff like that. Like, I think that's just kind of their shtick, and Nashville is more of the, southern flavor of that. I think that they're doing similar things, but different in the type of, atmosphere they're presenting. So, but I can understand it. I hope to eventually go to Nashville because my friend will be moving there after his fun adventures doing his PhD stuff. But he's got something lined up in Nashville, and my hope is to take him and his wife to a Predators game. And I think that will be an excellent time, because I've heard a lot of really good things about Nashville. And I don't know if I'm going to watch much of the game, because I'm probably going to spend, since it's Saturday, I'm probably going to spend my day off relaxing and playing video games. But I enjoy these games because of the flavor that they bring and the unique venues. And you're right, though. I think the NHL has to do more to reinvent them, because, I still enjoy the uniqueness of the outdoor games, but I think they need to start, looking at ways to keep making them fresh and exciting, at least for the audiences at home. I know they care a lot about the, people that are going there to the game to buy, merch, get that ticket revenue and stuff like that. So I think it's going to be a good game either way, because you're right. Nashville is competitive, even though that they're looking to trade. Were they looking to trade? Philip Forsberg?
Oh, the Philip Forsberg thing?
Yeah.
I think that's a negotiating tactic. I can't see them doing that. I know they're not going to win the Stanley Cup this year, but they're in a playoff position. I think
that also confused me. I saw that come out Wednesday night. It was like, but wait a minute, aren't they, competing for a playoff spot in a division that isn't, super strong outside of the top teams? Like,
yeah, it's wild. I'm not buying it. I know Andy Strickland reported it, and he doesn't report like fake news or anything, but I have a feeling that was just leaked as to try to get him to lower his ask for another contract.
It's possible, but you never know with trade deadline season because that's coming up. But yeah, it is going to be, I think, a fun time for the people who are there in Nashville. And it probably should be a good game overall too, as long as the conditions are okay. Because Nashville,
Yes,
like you
that's the
said,
big thing.
is kind of competitive, and Tampa Bay is Tampa Bay. I don't think we need to put any more emphasis on Tampa Bay, the back-to-back Stanley Cup champions. So,
Yeah.
as long as the weather holds, I think it should still be a good game. But I
think
hope,
in like the COVID situation too, it's nice to be able to pack an arena that's outside. I know it's not the most comfortable thing, but I look back at, one of the advantages of COVID, and I know it didn't work out because of the amount of sunlight, but the game that they did last year in Lake Tahoe was unbelievably gorgeous until the ice got ruined. I wish that they could replicate that. I don't know if it's just a situation where like maybe they could build some temporary stands on one side of it, but there's something iconic and special about doing these outdoor games, especially if you can get a venue like that. That I don't know. It's something that like baseball has in like the way that a lot of the ballparks are
like the Field of Dreams
in beautiful
game.
areas. Yeah, like those kinds of situations are super cool, and the fact that they're able to execute these outdoor games so well now, for the most part, is super fun. And as much as it might be a little bit like past its expiry date for some people, I think the majority of people who were going to tune into the game anyway still see it as a special event. So hopefully the NHL can do something entertaining with these games going forward, and hopefully this one is that. But we'll wrap it up there. That's the end of our hockey talk for this show, but we are going to talk about some pop culture stuff in our pop culture roulette segment in a moment after I tell you about Rock Auto. With the ever-increasing number of makes and models, it's now impossible for your local chain auto parts store to stock all the parts that you need. Why endure often pointless or seemingly intimidating questioning and wait while the person behind the counter orders the parts on their computer? I actually experienced this just yesterday. I had my car in for service, and they had to order brakes from another company, and I had to sit around for 3 hours. It was kind of annoying. You have computers with access to rockauto.com at home and in your pocket. Save time and money when using Rock Auto. Why choose to spend 30, 50, or even 100% more for parts from a chain store or car dealership? Rock Auto is also a family business serving do-it-yourselfers for over 20 years. And Rock Auto's prices are reliably low for every customer. Go explore their easy-to-use website today and find the solution for your auto parts needs. Go to rockauto.com right now and see all the parts available for your car or truck. Write Locked On in their How Did You Hear About Us box so that they know that we sent you. Amazing selection, reliably low prices, all the parts that your car will ever need. rockauto.com. All right, Mary, I don't know what you have for the whole pop culture stuff, but I have something that I had to talk about because it's absolutely wild. It isn't a game or a TV show or a movie. It's just, do you know the actress Anna Lynn McCord? Have you heard of her?
No.
She's like an actress model. She was in a few shows. Like, I think How I Know of Her is an old show called, I think it was Nip Tuck. It was like a show about plastic surgery.
Yeah, that sounds familiar.
And she was in that, and she just played like a completely unhinged psycho. And I think she did the same thing on like a teen show that I didn't watch, but I think it was like the revamped 90210, the reboot in like the mid 2000s. Anyway, she posted a video on Twitter, and like it's so bad that it's almost good, but I literally could not make it through it. She wrote a poem for Vladimir Putin about how if she was his mother, he would be loved and not act this way. And I tried to watch it 2 times. The first time I bailed as soon as she starts rhyming about Putin because like, come on. But the second time I made it almost all the way through, and it's, oh my God, it's just so bad. It's like, you know, that drill tweet, like, I regret to inform you the celebs are at it again.
Yes.
The celebs are at it again. First, it was Gal Gadot with the stupid Imagine song when the pandemic first started, and now it's this.
It's always something with those celebrities, isn't it? That's me every time Aaron Rodgers opens his mouth. I'm not going to go any further, but I've had enough of that dude. I posted about it on Twitter. It's like, that Always Sunny meme is like, I've had enough of this dude. please go away, Aaron Rodgers. I don't.
Speaking of people who need to shut the hell up.
Whatever, like, he mentioned on his Instagram, I had logged into work and it was the first thing on our homepage about him and whatever cleanse he was in. And I'm just like, I rolled my eyes so hard. I think I gave myself a headache. I was like, please, I can't keep doing this. But yeah, the celebrities really are back at it again. The only thing I have is I'm continuing to play Horizon Forbidden West. When you hear this, the new video game Elden Ring will have come out, and that also seems to be an incredible game, game of the generation, as people are calling it. So if that interests you, check it out. I won't be checking it out until I finish Horizon Forbidden West, but it is next on my list, and I just hope we all have a good time playing video games, because I think we all need to take a bit of a step back. I know for mental health sake, it is probably good. You don't need to have an opinion on things. You don't need to have a take on things. Sometimes it's okay to just be like, I don't know. I don't have an opinion on things because I don't know enough about it. That is perfectly okay to say. The only thing you should do is, give your hearts and support to the people that need it, because, there's not only just stuff happening in Ukraine, there's also stuff happening in the United States, with stuff in Texas, with trans kids. And it is just
yeah, that's horrifying.
It's it really is sad all around. So it's okay to take some time off from social media, but if see things going around charities, just make sure they're legitimate ones, because disinformation is really real in this era. So look to outlets, journalists you can trust. And yeah, I think that's really all I have to say about it. Just, I think take some steps back. It's okay to, not doom scroll. I know it's hard, but, try to find something that occupies you, and takes you to a different world entirely, because that's what I've been doing over the past couple of days, and it's helped. So, whether that be hockey, video games, sports, I don't know, hoping baseball comes back, because I also miss baseball a lot. I really hope it comes back soon. But yeah, take some time to yourself. We all deserve mental health breaks. So,
Yeah. And I should say that about the trans stuff in Texas and the god-awful things that I think it's Greg Abbott has been trying to pull. If you have the means and inclination, you can check out our colleague Jay Forster's Twitter, _JAKOBFORSTER. And Jacob put together a thread of places that you can donate to help trans kids. This is really, it should not be a political issue. And the fact that it has become one is, terrifying and frustrating and exhausting. And I just feel for everybody in the LGBT community who continue to be used as a political wedge issue when it's a human and a medical rights issue. It's flabbergasting. But to shift entirely to a fun thing, I'm assuming that you saw the Spider-Man pointing at Spider-Man.
Yes,
meme,
I did see the Spider-Man pointing at Spider-Man meme.
No Way Home is actually going to come out on digital in a month.
Oh, really?
Yes, March 22.
Cool, nice. That'll be fun. Also, hilariously, my friends and I are going to watch Spider-Verse this weekend. So
nice.
Yeah, so a lot of good Spidey goodness. It's going to be nice to revisit that movie, because it's so good. It's probably my favorite Spider-Man thing. Just in general, it's fantastic. If you have not seen Into the Spider-Verse, there will be a sequel, and then I believe it's like a trilogy, but there will be a sequel coming out eventually. But definitely check out Into the Spider-Verse. It's a fantastic film, great music, gorgeously animated, one of the best animation things I've seen in my lifetime. So definitely check that out and enjoy, the memes, because I did see that Spider-Man meme, and I think it's going to get a lot of use out there.
Yes, 100%. All right, that's all we have for you today on the Crosscheck NHL show. Thank you for making us your first listen every Tuesday and Friday. And we'll be back next week on Tuesday, as always. Now, make your second listen Locked On Fantasy Hockey. Hosts Steele Roden and Flip Livingstone help you become the expert of your fantasy league. It's free and available wherever you get your podcasts.